Good morning. This is Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado, and this is the Saturday Morning Mastermind. And this is a group of friends that gathers here every week for years now, and we read different self-help books. And we tend to we've started leaning more towards the spirituality, just because that's something that we all also have in common. We started out as just a entrepreneur, business, self-development type study group, but we're evolving. And right now we're reading The Wisdom of Sundays, which was a book done by Oprah Winfrey. And she interviewed, um, every Sunday, she interviewed another spiritual leader and asked them questions and got, you know, their take on things. And it's really a very interesting book. We're really enjoying it. We're on chapter 8 now. Unfortunately, many of our members couldn't join us today. Some are traveling, some just aren't feeling well, some are busy with plans, some are in classes. Like we're busy people. So those of us that can show up do, and we hope everybody got to spend some time with the ones they loved last weekend. We did take last weekend off. So, but this weekend we're going to break into chapter 8, and we have to, first of all, I'm going to let Dan introduce himself before we get started there. But I'm trying to remember everything Samantha normally says. We have a YouTube channel. You can find that on YouTube, Mindset Mastery Collective. We have a Facebook uh, group, a Facebook page, Mindset Mastery Collective. So you can just find us. We're on Google. We have our own website. We're pretty much everywhere. So go ahead and come on, Dan. Introduce yourself, and we'll get started on gratitude. You're muted.
I forgot you muted me, and I thought you might have unmuted me before I started, but oh well. See, I'm still trying to wake up. Yes, it's 7 a.m. or a little after 7 a.m. my time. So while you all have been up for a little while, I'm just getting up. So, um, but it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day out. The weather's been kind of nice. In the 90s, I think we're going to get up into the hundreds again here really quick because it feels like it. But I'm looking forward to getting into uh, this week's chapter about grace and gratitude. And I've been seeing a lot of that being going around and stuff, and people talking about stuff. So that might be something that's going to bring out some interesting aspects. So looking forward to it. And thanks.
We'll see if we can carry this conversation, Dan. um, Grace and gratitude. Wow. Those are two very powerful words. And I really loved hearing all the different. Oh, before I start here, I did want to say the typically the Kindle version and the printed version of books are slightly different. And then in this case, there's also an Audible version. And the Audible version is pretty much completely different from the written or Kindle version, as far as I know, of this book. So I've got the Kindle. Which one do you have, Dan? We might as well leave you unmuted. Anyway,
I think I have both actually.
okay,
I
good.
just get so busy sometimes I forget to get in there and look at them and read them. I've got between work, doing some other outside activities to bring money in that's not in line with what I'm doing right now. Plus helping a friend with her business and stuff. I'm going crazy, so trying to keep my head on straight sometimes. I forget which one, but I think I have both.
Yeah. Well, the Audible, I really enjoyed the Audible version of this chapter. Well, I've enjoyed all of them, but I love Carolyn Miss. I started reading Carolyn Miss decades ago, and she was probably one of the first spiritual teachers I came across. One of the, probably the out of the first 10 that I studied, I'm thinking. And I just, she's very down to earth, and I just love the way that she says things, and it's encouraged me to get out. I don't think I have any of the hard copies of her books anymore, but I'll have to order them on Kindle or something. But grace and gratitude, well, pretty much every spiritual teacher ever has stated the power of gratitude, and especially having gratitude in those moments of despair where you feel like the whole world is crumbling down on you and you don't know which way to turn, and you feel like you're looking at your checkbook and you're looking at your cupboard, and you're saying, holy shit, what am I going to do? And those, every spiritual master has said those are the moments when you need to be grateful for everything that you have, because it's that vibration of gratitude that allows further, gifts to come in. So, and yet that's like the time when it's the very, very hardest, right? Because you're just like ripping your hair out because you don't know what you're going to do, and it really it backs down to faith. But the reason grace and gratitude, I think, go so well together is because it's in that moment, you're in total despair, you're in total hopelessness, and something reminds you, hey, those crazy people on that webinar said to be gratitude, have gratitude. So you're like, okay, thank you, God. That at least I'm still here to even deal with this shit, whatever it is. And then I agree. I think it was Carolyn. I heard so many different definitions of grace, but I think it was Carolyn Miss that said grace is a moment. It's a moment, and it really is. It's a power that comes in and it changes everything in a moment, from hopelessness to hope. I don't know if that's how she said it or whatever, but that's what I'm saying. And I have certainly experienced a lot of that in my life, and especially in the last 12 years. What about you, Dan?
Um, yeah, I think I agree with the idea that it's a moment, but I think it's more than a moment too, because I have been in situations where I have just been dead asleep, gone to bed, finally gotten to sleep, and then woken up with in a panic attack over just fear of everything and what's going on, and how am I going to do this? How am I going to pay that? How am I, you know, after I lost a job the very first time ever in my life back in 2010, and I mean, real fear and real, that uneasiness and unknowing and not being sure in myself was so prevalent. So I would wake up and just sweat and panic attacks, and I'd never ever had panic attacks in my life. So that was something new in and of itself for me. But in those moments when I finally learned to realize that somehow I was still here, thank the good Lord that I was still here, that somehow things were being taken care of, even though not in my eyes sense of, because I was still wondering where the money was going to come from, but the means were being put in place, and family or friends or the opportunities were working their way towards me. And I had to really sit back and be grateful for what I had and appreciate what I had and be filled with gratitude that I still had a roof over my head. I still had food in my cupboards. I still was able to drive my car. So even in my own mind's eye, I was like going, oh, what? But when I started really looking and seeing where I was and being truly thankful, that's when peace, and that's when I settled down more, and I did turn it over. And that's when a lot of things started, changing, and it gave me a sense of, okay, I can get through this. So I think that's, something that helps um, within our physical as well as our spiritual and all that, that it kind of all works together, and that, it gives us a way to move on and to cope and to go forward. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it helps, or conveys what I was feeling.
Absolutely, it makes sense. Um, Oprah mentioned it on the Audible version, that she felt like there were times when she was in a state of grace for prolonged periods, and I agree with that. That that grace lingers; it stays with you. So it's more than a moment, but it is a moment that changes everything. It's a moment that takes you from hopelessness to hope, and and a
Yeah, that.
moment
Oh,
of
sorry,
deep,
don't mean
of
to
deep
talk over you,
calm.
but I
Go ahead.
that you're right. That moment when I did just focus on my thankfulness, focus on my gratitude, focus on. You're right. It did change from pure hopelessness to where I did have hope and I could move forward. And I think you're right. And then it started to linger, and I just kind of tried to stay. I wanted to stay in that moment.
Oh
You
yeah, that's
know,
a great place, isn't it?
it's the best place.
It's a beautiful place to be. Yeah, and isn't it interesting that sometimes we question why certain things happen, we don't understand why things happen, and yet to be whatever it took to get to that complete hopelessness, that is what allowed us to experience grace. I did some artwork for Project Angel, raising awareness for pudendal neuralgia, and my that was my word, was grace, because I feel like pain introduced me to grace. The pain that I experienced took me to those moments of hopelessness, and it introduced me to grace firsthand, and just literally saved my life. And I it's not something, it's a God-given thing. Like, it's not like I can't, like people say, oh, I can grace you or what. No, no, this is different. This is a God-given thing we're talking about.
I agree. I think, and the more I'm thinking about it, I think it's like for me, music is the way I get into, I think, my greatest moments. I think of certain songs that kind of help me focus on the areas of thankfulness and appreciation and gratitude, and in some ways respect for the life I've been given. You know, and I think that's what allows the grace to then come in and envelope me in a sense, for lack of a better word. But I think there are people out there that don't know how to find their way to what taps them into grace or something. And I think that's why we have a lot of um, hopeless people out there in the world, and a lot of people that don't see the beauty that's out there in the world, and the wonder and the you know what life can truly offer. Because through that, I got a better and different picture of that life really is worth what it is. But you have to go through all those times to kind of get to that appreciation. So where you can feel the gratitude, where you can find that connection back to gratitude and to be thankful and to appreciate, the life that I've been given and allowed to live.
Yeah. It's kind of like love. You don't realize how much you love something until it's gone. It is this duality world that we've been put into. I mean, there is a purpose behind it, obviously. The negative stuff pulls the positive stuff and vice versa somehow. But gratitude, one of the things that I loved, um, I kept a gratitude log, a written one for some time, and I still keep a like a mental gratitude log every day. And I just, as I'm observing or listening or smelling or tasting or whatever I'm doing that I'm grateful for, I just kind of mentally write it in there and make note of it. But I was shocked. Like I understand vibration and I understand that the energetic signature of gratitude and stuff, but I was still shocked to see that they had actually, I think it was in the book, it was talking about this, they had actually been able to find pessimism genes in people, which I didn't realize there was such a thing. But there's actually genes that they can identify where people are more pessimistic. And even with genetic pessimism and environmental pessimism, they were able to change those people from pessimist to optimist just by having them write three things. I think every morning they had to start their day by saying three different things that they were grateful for that day. And just by taking that one simple action, it changed their personality. And I've been around pessimists, and it's almost, it really is like they can't help it. I mean, sometimes I think, well, my gosh, how can everything, why is everything so horrible? And there's just, like you said, a hopelessness, but a different hopelessness than what we were talking about
Hmm.
earlier. But I mean, it really shocked me that just that one simple thing. So, if you tend to be on the pessimistic side, or even if you don't, it's a great idea every morning when you wake up, start your day with three things that you're grateful.
Well, for me, I think that it's kind of that Chicken Little syndrome. A lot of people can kind of get themselves into that, um, because of them allowing what's going on outside of their world affect what's going on, and we all do it. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. I've been there. I've done it. But we also have that capability in our minds to help ourselves too, through, like you said, through the process of gratitude and grace and, being thankful. And I know I've done it myself a few times where there have been times where I've just woke up in the morning and my first thought is, thank you. I'm just alive. I'm breathing. I'm waking up from my bed and not out on the ground somewhere. I'm going to work, those types of things. And it kind of shifts my focus for the day and gives me that springboard to, you know, look at the day differently than on the days where it's like I wake up and I go, I don't want to get up. I don't want to go to work. I don't feel like that. And it's that negative, and all of a sudden one bad thing happens and you're just like, really what next, and I see that happening with a friend on Facebook. um, I met her through a group I'm a part of for hockey team here, Vegas Golden Knights, which are in the Stanley Cup playoff. And but she's had a little rash of some bad luck, and I'm calling it bad luck, but it's probably more deeper than that. um, but she keeps posting about these things and about this and about that, and I keep trying to give her the positive side of it, and I still see her kind of, and I keep seeing things happen to her, and I'm like, maybe if you changed your thoughts here a little bit about some of this, maybe you can get back to being that positive person that I know you are, and you can get back on that side of things rather than, you know, the stuff that keeps seemingly right now coming to you and attacking you in a sense. So I think a lot of this all plays together too. Our brains are very powerful, and God made them that way, and yet we don't even use a tenth of the power that we have here. You know, um, I'd like to harness more of that power.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt about it that what you focus on expands. Like if I focus on my pain, it expands. There's no, I mean, I witness it every moment of my day. Like that's why I keep myself distracted with so many things. And it's really easy when you're in those lower vibrations. And I talk about vibrations because to me, knowing that it's vibration means that gives me the power to change that, because I know that I can change my vibration with prayer, with meditation, with music, with nature, with art, with listening to inspirational people, with reading inspirational books. So to me, it's very empowering to know that this is vibrational, and it takes, to me, it takes the personal guilt out of it. Like I don't beat myself up about being weak, or something like that, when I think about it in more of an energetic vibrational level. And when you're down on those levels, it's really, if you don't know that you have to take, you have to collect your own toolbox of tools to bring your energy back up. Now some people just steal it from other people, and they don't do it intentionally. I mean, some people do it intentionally, but most people don't. They have no idea that they're draining. I'm sure everybody who listens to this has people in their life that, the phone rings and they see the thing and they're just like, hit the ignore button, because they know that if they get on the phone with this person for the next hour, they're going to be completely drained. You're going to be completely drained at the end of it. And there's just people like that. But if you can learn these tools, music is a great one, dance, some kind of movement. So many of us are not, uh, like I have some physical restrictions, but still I could move more than I do because I sit in front of the computer too much, or lay in front of the computer too much. But a lot of gotten that way where we're not as active. I'm trying to walk every day and or do something really physical every day. I've been working on the gypsy wagon, so I've been out here for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that now. But if you don't know that you can raise that, you just get stuck there. And then it's like the more you focus on that, the worse it gets. And most people don't listen to those little signs. Like I get little signs constantly. If I'm getting upset over something, like I've been, my whole uh, income, every I had like multiple income streams, everything stopped all at once. Like, and it has totally freaked me out because I can't just go to the corner store and get a job like I used to be able to do. I've never been without work since I was 11 years old. And it's frightening. But the more I focus on the frightening aspects of it, the larger those fears get. Like that fear just grows and grows, and then I'm waking up at 4 in the morning with fucking anxiety, and and then I mean you can drive yourself to the point of insanity with that. But that's when you have to pull in that gratitude, like you said. You got a roof over your head, and you ate yesterday, even if you don't got food for today or whatever. And plus, because I work with so many international people, oh my gosh, like even when I'm feel like I'm just eat nothing but rice and beans, they don't even have that. I mean, if you look around, I just watched a movie a couple days ago that shook me up called Sarah's Notebook. It's on Netflix if anybody wants to watch it, but it's a tearjerker. And maybe not for people who don't work with. I work with a lot of Africans, and it's a story about a white woman that goes to Africa, and what all gets caused there and what's going on. And I mean, these war torn countries, they have nothing, you know. So even here in America, even when we think that we're on poverty row, you know, we still have more than so many people have, and we have so much to be grateful for. And so if we can just, when we're in those low spots, we can, we just have, it comes down to faith. That's all it comes down to is faith. That you, I mean, it comes down to nothing but you and God, and am I going to be okay? And then hopefully that moment of grace comes in and lets you know that you are. You know, like I'll have several days where I am wired, and then all of a sudden this feeling of peace just comes over me, and it's like, just relax and calm down, like it's all going to work out.
And I think that's part of what we do is we forget that, for me, it's God, but we're all, everything out there has its purpose, has its uh, job to do, has its thing to do. We all have our purposes, whether we all understand it fully or know what it is fully. But at the same point, you know, going back and believing that, it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to play out. Um, while I believe we have, a good major portion of control over things, there's still some things that are, left to God, the universe, infinite intelligence, however you want to call it, that um, gives me that security that, okay, I'll be okay, I'll be fine. This is just, you know, a temporary setback or bump in the road or something like that. But, you know, it's kind of like taking that small little anthill, but we turn it into this big, Mount Everest type of mountain when it's really not. And that's the biggest issue too. Is you know, and I think grace allows that ability to knock that back down, back to reality, in essence, into what it is, and that and then that's where you kind of get that peace and that settlement to be able to say, okay, I'm blowing this way out of proportion. And that's where you can say, okay, I've got the roof over my head. I've got food in my cupboards. I've got clothes on my back. Going back, I have, you know, uh, been to some places where I call it some extreme poverty, but I don't think it's probably even the most extreme. I know people that have been places in the Middle East that have seen some places that are even more extreme than what I've seen. Um, but I can at least be thankful and grateful and appreciative, and that's, I think, a word I need to use, appreciative of where I am and that I allowed to live where I live. You know, I could have been born in one of those countries. I could have been one of the, those, you know, one of, I don't want to say those people in a bad way, those people that are going through what they're going through. But maybe in that circumstances, I may not have been able to handle it in the same way that a lot of them do, because it's a day-to-day thing for them. It's a day-to-day life. It's something they cope with. And I've heard stories of where, you go and, interact with a lot of the kids there, you know, somehow a lot of those kids still have filled with, uh, until they get older, I think, but, the younger ones still have a lot of hope, a lot of joy. You see the biggest smiles on their faces and things like that. And it brings a whole new meaning to being thankful and appreciating what you have. And I think that's the one thing that we lose sight of too, just how, you know, blessed I am, and how, you know, I should be more and more and more and more grateful and more and more and more thankful than I even am. And so in that sense, putting it like you were talking, and going from there, it gives me something to use and fall back on and put in my spirit so that way I can continue and go forward and hopefully continue to strive towards my dreams and goals so I can help and reach out and help those people reach their, the dreams and desires that they, I think, only faintly dream about, those type of things.
Yeah, and another thing that they bring up in this chapter is I forget who said it now, but they said that people suffer when they pursue a life or chase a dream that doesn't belong to them. Now, when I first heard that, the hair on the back of my neck stood up because, we're all told we can be anything we want to be. But if you drop back, to the bigger picture, why did we come here as a soul? What is our real purpose here? Um, what is our gift? What gifts have we been given? A lot of times, this suffering, at least I'm speaking for myself here, because taking responsibility is a huge part of it, and a lot of suffering is caused when we decide we're going to go down this road, and that's not really the road we're supposed to be going down. That's not the road that's utilizing our God-given gifts. That's not the road that is going to, touch the number of people that God wants us to touch, or whatever. And sometimes we get so bullheaded that, well, this is how we're going to do it, and this is the only way, and we bang our head, and we bang our head, and we bang our head, and it gets kind of confusing because in the entrepreneurial world, they say, well, everybody fails a million times, and if you don't have persistence, and you just have to keep going, and you got to keep banging your head. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe that's God's sign saying, hey, this ain't for you. You need to be doing this over here. Or we told you 2 decades ago you were supposed to be writing. What the hell's going on? So sometimes I think that this suffering, I agree with this statement that people suffer when they pursue a life or chase a dream that doesn't belong to them. Not in the way that, you can't be what you want to be, but in the way that, is that really your purpose? And you know, people have to have jobs. Like there has to be people at the checkout counter, and well, I guess now they're making it where you check yourself out, but you know what I mean. I mean, there's got to be people putting up the electricity lines and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that, for some people, like I had an uncle who worked for the telephone company, and that was, to him, that was like his purpose. I mean, that was what he served people by providing communication. And if you think about the importance of that, the ability to, call 911 or whatever, I'm talking back in the days when there weren't cell phones, you guys. I'm old, all right? But, but
uh,
you know, job, I don't want people to think that I'm demeaning jobs, because any job can be a purpose too. Like I was a nurse for 20 years. That was a purpose, to serve and heal. And I did a lot of energy work there. But like in my instance, I think God is pulling me back to energy work and healing type of work that, for whatever reason, I mean, I don't do the healing, but somehow I'm able to help people connect with grace, um, and find that healing. And so I think God uses suffering to shift us back to places that we need to be.
yeah, I think it's interesting the way you said that because as I'm thinking about some things and how often and it's more prevalent than I think I can ever. Well, no, I think it's always been this way. But how much do we hear of people say, "Oh, I hate going to my job. I hate going to do this. I hate going to do that," and and how much energy is expensed because of that, because so many of us are doing things that are not in line with our giftings, our talents, our you know purpose and stuff because of and the only way I can put this out there is the need to feel like that's what keeps us alive and providing what we need, when I think if we were truly, because in my course of getting involved in, the areas of, what I'm doing online and things and stuff, and those areas, and the people that I've dealt with that are doing things in line with their passion and what they'd love to do, one, it doesn't become work, and they really, and you can see it, they really love what they do, and there's something so different about them. It almost bleeds over into you, and you kind of go, well, you kind of, that's why I said don't think a lot of us know exactly what our purpose is or what that is. I think the big thing that people miss is trying to find out what their purpose is. And I think that if that were, how do I, a little easier to determine, because I don't think it's the easiest thing to determine, or to learn, or to grasp. I think the world would be a lot happier place too, and in that sense, I think that's where a lot of all, and I'm including everything that comes out, all the negative between everybody in almost every single form, shape, color, size, whatever you want to call it. I think that's where a lot of stuff is bred out of too.
Most definitely. And that was one of the questions that Oprah asked whoever that was that said what I said earlier about people suffering. She says, well, how do when you found your purpose or whatever? And I think this was Carolyn Miss, actually. She said, you are no longer put in a position to betray yourself, your integrity, to negotiate, you know, uh, unwillingly, to, you don't have this deep sense of what the fuck is going on, I mean, she didn't say it like that, but I'm going to say it like that. Um, this, a lot of people are walking around in just this state of confusion, basically. Oh, Samantha joined us. Hi, honey. Welcome. I don't think she can hear us yet. But so she said, when you find what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what decreases your stress. And I know for me, I certainly feel like some changes that I've made recently in my life um, are exactly for that reason, because I felt like I was being put in a position where I had to betray myself and others, and I had to um, negotiate my integrity, and I couldn't do it. And I have to say, as heavy a load as the stress of not knowing where the money's coming from, it's the stress of getting that weight off of my shoulders was a pleasant trade. Samantha's frozen and looks confused.
I think she's trying to learn and find all the buttons on the phone, because I don't think she's ever done it on the phone.
She's unmuted.
There you go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I gotta turn my brightness off or turn my brightness up so I can see on here better. Okay, I'm gonna mute out for the moment.
All right.
That's interesting how you said that, because I think that's a big part of it. Like you said, I think in essence, I think we all, and I'm saying all because I think we have all done it, betrayed ourselves of what we were supposed to be doing, because, you know, a, a lot of people go to jobs they don't want to go. So henceforth, they don't want to be stuck having to get up at a certain time to go to, a job at a certain place that they don't really want to go to, but yet they feel like, I have to do this because I got to pay bills, or I got, mouths to feed. And I get it, that's, something, but, but you got to learn to find a balance too, and find what you're willing to, and it's interesting because I'm watching somebody as they're going through some uh, possible changes, looking for jobs that better suit what they're doing, and they had applied for one and got an interview, and then when they got into that interview and found out the times of when that job was going to, yeah, it might have been more money, but for their life, it was not conducive to their life for the time period. So while they could have probably taken it and switched their life around and made changes, but would those changes have been one that would have been making them happy and the people that it affects that they directly interact with in their family and stuff? Or is it better to stay where they're at, continue moving and looking for the opportunities, the right things that would be the right place or put them in the right track? And I think a lot of times we tend to really go for, and I hate to say it because um, I've done it. We all look at, oh, that's more money. Okay, I'll do that because then I can do here and I can do that and I can pay off this or I can pay off that. When in essence, maybe that's going to bring more of headache and heartache and more negative and more pain to where you go deeper down the rabbit hole, so to speak, because you're not happy. Whereas if you stayed where you were or looked for something better and kind of stayed true to yourself, so that way you can get to that right point in space and time, because going off in this other direction will totally lead you totally and may not even get you back around to where you really want, where you really need to be. And I think that's part of like what you were saying, is where we kind of bring about our own suffering and misery because of choices that we make and conscious decisions that we make, um, with what we know at the time and understand and how we feel and what's going on. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right. I think we've all done it, but sometimes being able to step back and look at our true selves and saying, is this really in line with what resonates with me? What will really ultimately make me happy? And if it doesn't, can I still survive and live, or keep doing what I'm doing where I'm at, until something comes along that is the towards the right track? And I think we all shoot ourselves in the foot on that.
Well, Oprah said, and I agree with her, that betrayal is probably one of the worst feelings ever, especially if it's somebody close to you that betrays you. But the biggest betrayal is that we betray ourselves. And we know, our spirit knows when we're making bad choices. We feel it. We may choose to ignore it, but we feel it. We know it. We know when we're not resonating with something. We if we're in a business or something, and they start, you can feel it when things are getting out of integrity. You get these little shivers of energy that go through your body. Somebody says something, and or at least I do. So when somebody says something, I can either get this feeling of resignation, like, yes, that's truth that I'm hearing. I can feel the truth in that, or I get this kind of feeling, you know. And so it's not like we can lie to ourselves, but we do. We lie to ourselves every freaking day, guys. And a lot of people, are in jobs or relationships or whatever that they're in. And like you said, maybe they think that that's their only option. And so they just lie to themselves that everything's okay. But it's not okay. And their soul's not okay. And their soul is being drained slowly but surely. And, you have to take responsibility for your own happiness and your own integrity. And if you're in a job and you feel like that's your only, absolutely only option, then maybe it is, for right now. I don't know your circumstances, but what I can say is find a way to find peace in that situation. somehow, some way, um, look at it as just, a paid internship to the to learn the skills. God's just building your skills so that you can do what you really need to do. Like, that's kind of what I look at. I don't look at things as failures. I look at them as, okay, what did I learn from that situation that I can apply in my next situation? And there's always, I mean, I've yet to find anything that there wasn't some kind of purpose or reason for, even though it made no sense at the time. And sometimes, you know, I think if you can give up, what was that thing that they said? Exchange gratitude for expectation. I think that's a great saying right there. That's a tweetable one. um, because so much suffering comes from expectation. And if we can give up the need, to get what we expected and give up the need to understand. It's like we always want to understand everything. Well, we're just not going to understand everything until later. That's just the way it works. I don't know why, but that's why hindsight's 2020, right?
I was going to say, I think that's part of the whole aspect of it is learning to, like you said, get rid of, I think we inherently put an expectation because I think that's just human nature. But if we can co-partner it or put it alongside with gratitude and grace and all that, I think it can keep us a little more aligned with, like you said, understanding that this might be that stepping stone or that path that's helping us get to where we really need to be. If this is something that's the only option we feel that we can take at this point in time, and sometimes that does happen, but I think you have to give yourself the grace, and you have to be thankful for that opportunity and for that chance and for that, and turn it around to being thankful for that opportunity so that way you can say, okay, thank you for this opportunity. It is still a part of my journey to find that purpose or to find my thing, and to not look at it and go into negative vein of, oh, I hate this, I don't want to be doing this, I don't want it. I think that again, it plays a big role. And I'm going to key back on something Samantha said a couple weeks ago, with her when the new baby was being born and all that, and decisions that she had made because um, and she had to, I think, in a sense, forgive herself too, to be able to make the decision that she was going. She needed to be with her, daughter and be there and be by the side and stuff. But yeah, she really, you know, what about the job? The job that she had, and the responsibilities, and that she really didn't have any time available to take off of this or that. And she gave us, it was thankful for what that entailed, I think, but it also, and the gratitude that she had that, but she also gave her, self grace and understanding that this was her daughter. She needed to go. That was part of where she needed to be at this point in time. And while it's not totally intertwined with what we're doing, but it kind of made me think that there are times where, you know, we're going to have to make those type of, quick snap judgments, and we can't have the regret behind those judgments or decisions, because that's going to play with us, and that's going to resonate, and that's going to drag us down, and we're going to go back into I think sometimes that can again lead us down that rabbit hole of hopelessness or despair, or that it's leading me where I don't want to go, because now if I go back, do I have a job still? Do I not have a job? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to do that? You know so I think uh seeing her do that kind of you know built me up a little bit to understand that I gotta learn to give myself that grace and that um, forgiveness, but also be grateful for whatever is playing out before me too.
Definitely. One thing I do want to remind people though, because sometimes our minds closet us in and make us think that we have no other options when there are lots of options. And you know, a lot of times that's just dictated from childhood and stuff. And, you know, we're hearing our parents' voice behind our ear, you know, you got to keep that 40-hour a week job or blah, 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 whatever. But if you can ask, you know, in your prayers, just ask God or the universe, whoever you talk to, you know, show me the possibilities. You know, what does my perfect career look like? You know, what does me living my purpose look like? You might not have an idea of what your purpose is, but you can ask what it looks like and maybe they'll show you. I want to hear your words, Samantha. Can I unmute you and have you come out and talk on grace and gratitude? Because we're almost done here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello? Yes?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. I think there's a little bit of a delay. Um, you know, when you were talking, Dan, you know, it kind of reminded me, or if we're talking about career paths and life purpose and all of that kind of thing, you know, I've struggled for a lot of years with my work and not feeling fulfilled and not feeling like I had a purpose and or you know like a job, like a career kind of a purpose. And you know, it wasn't until I started to realize that, you know, my job didn't have to be the thing that was my purpose. And it didn't have to be, I think that a lot of times, well, either with me, I mean, for years, it just seemed like, you know, what's wrong with me? Why can't I figure out what it is I really want to do? And, you know, but I realized that my job didn't have to be that thing. It, you know, my other part of my life could be what my purpose was, and my job is simply just a means to an end. You know, I still got to pay the bills. I still got to, you know, put money aside for my future. You know, I want to be able to make investments and all of those kinds of things, you know, but that's just living the human life. It's not like the purposeful thing, if you will. So when I realized that I could have that kind of separation, then I can like treat my job and think of my job in a completely different way. It just felt better no matter what I was doing, whether I was doing something I enjoyed or whether I just did something that was mundane and boring and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I got to go there every day. It made it easier because then it was only a part of what my life was about versus what I was focused on as, you know, like I'm supposed to get fulfillment from that. Because, you know, I don't know about you guys, but my job's really just never been all that fulfilling. They've just been more of a means to an end. And I've struggled with it for a long time because I thought that was supposed to be where my fulfillment came from. But, you know, obviously it wasn't. So, you know, and then, you know, on the other aspect of you know, Catherine, you mentioned not, you know, we think that we only have one choice, or uh, we don't think we have other options. And when I was trying to make that decision that Dan was talking about, you know, yeah, I was sitting there, I've got this job, it's a great job, you know, it pays decent, you know, I've got a retirement fund going with it, all these little things. And, you know, and if I lost that job because of doing what I needed to do, then yeah, it would be a disappointment, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. I mean, yeah, I'd have to, you know, look for another job. I'd have to find something else I halfway like to do, you know, I mean, things like that. And, you know, but I know I could. It wouldn't be the end of the world. I found that one. I could find another one. And, you know, so that's my kind of thoughts on what I've heard you guys talking about so far today. And it's been a while since I listened to this chapter. I didn't have a whole lot of time while we were down here in Hilton Head, so I don't have any comments on anything else at this point. So I think we're almost at the top of the hour anyway. You can mute me now.
Thank you. It's lovely to hear. I'm so glad you pointed that out too, because you're right. A lot of people think that they're that their purpose and their job has to be the same thing, and it doesn't at all. It can just be a means to an end. But when you realize that, like you said, it makes all the difference in the world, because it brings in a state of gratitude for that job as opposed to just hating it. Dan, what's your final thoughts, dear?
Oh, I think we covered a lot of things and went around, just hit on a lot of things. But I think, the more I look at it and deal with it, the more I am grateful for where I am and what I have and what what I've become. It just allows me more freedom to move forward in the path that I'm trying to figure out and go down and do, to where I can, be the best impact for others in life, whatever that impact may be, whether it's one or whether it's a lot. Um, I don't think that matters so much anymore. I think it's, that I'm doing what I believe is the purpose I'm being led to, or being shown, or being guided to, or whatever, and um, allowing myself that freedom to just be thankful and grateful for that ability and that opportunity, and for what I do have as I move forward. And I believe that it will bring bigger and greater and better things. Um, it's just where it takes me, I don't know.
Yeah, I like to think if we just keep trying to, stay happy and help people, things will work out. And the I think that the gratitude, saying the first thing in the morning, the find three things that you're grateful for. I think that's a great practice for all of us. Like I said, I was shocked that it actually changed people who were genetically uh, predisposed to pessimism. So that's powerful. Your mind is so powerful. And one last thing that they brought up that I want to end with is that, I touched on it a little bit before about betrayal of self. And so many of us um, judge, and we've talked about this before, we're much harsher judges with ourselves than we are with others. But we judge, decisions we've made in the past or whatever, and we get upset because people don't treat us the way that we want to be treated or whatever. But we really need to take responsibility and understand that every time that we find ourselves in a moment where we're distraught over something that's happened in the past, we are the abuser. We are the ones betraying ourselves, because that moment is over. Like, there's nothing we can do to change the past or any decision that we've made in the past. And so stop beating yourself up over it, and stop betraying yourself, and realize that, and we started out talking about this, Dan, like this morning, my morning started like shit at 4:30, and I mean from 4:30 to probably 7:15, anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I was really in a piss poor mood, you guys, and I had to stop. I had to just stop and connect with that. I won't call it grace, because to me, grace, I've experienced grace, and to me, it's a very unique and special thing. Um, but I had to step into that stillness. I had to go into my underwater place where I like to go, where everything's calm and peaceful. And I had to say, okay, is your whole day going to go like this? Because from 4:30 this morning, it's gone like this, and it's just compiling and compiling, because you're in this piss poor attitude, and you need to like stop it and be grateful for everything that hasn't gone wrong that could have. Sometimes that's the only thing that you can get to, right? And and in any moment you can decide to change your day or your outlook or your, the way that you're interpreting something. Take a moment to stop and really analyze things and see what's going on. Thank God I was able to change my day and I made it on here because we've had a lovely discussion, and it's been wonderful being here. I wish more of us had been here because I think we would have gained even more, but I thought we did a pretty good job there, Dan. Thank you so much. And so glad you could get in with us there at the end. Samantha, safe travels to you. And we hope send out love to all of our fellow SMMers and hope that they're all back with us soon. And meanwhile, you can continue reading. I guess we'll move on to chapter 9 and read that in the book or listen to the Audible. And we'll catch you next Saturday morning. Check out our YouTube page and our Facebook page. And have an awesome weekend. And remember that no matter what's going on at any moment, you can step into that calmness and surrender, basically. Sometimes that's all you can do. Love you guys.